a yellow jacket if you haven't got the background.
Stop it, Bound. Stop it.
Online.
Right. I'm going on to mute.
Lead off then, Nick.
Good evening, Chearsley Parish Council and people hopefully zooming and looking in. Just gone 7:30, marginally. 15th of March, 7:30, remotely via video conference. So welcome everyone. The agenda, well, firstly, it's down to questions from parishioners. So Helen, I don't know if you've got any things that have come in that we need to address.
No, I think there's something under correspondence, but there's no questions that I'm aware of at the moment.
Okay, well, just for the audience looking in, if you want to text in or email in, if we can, we'll try and include it in a later session, but otherwise, I'm sorry, it'll be the next meeting. Apologies for absence. I don't think we've got any apologies for absence, have we?
No.
Wonderful, wonderful, good turnout. Number 2, declarations of interest. Okay, any personal, prejudicial or pecuniary interests pertaining to the agenda. If anybody would like to raise their hand to let us know. No, excellent. Approval of minutes from the 15th of February, 21. Could I have a proposer and a seconder, please?
Proposed.
Keith, thank you. And seconded?
Jules has put a hand up.
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
Thanks, Jules. Lovely. Matters arising from previous minutes.
All right, so the first action point on there is John Howard to circulate to the Parish Council and Mike Haybrook the report from Haddenham Parish Council regarding a potential cycleway from Haddenham to Tame. I believe that's been done.
Yeah, I didn't. Nick, you did that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the second action point was Anthony Adams to circulate a list of any footpath signs that need replacing to the councillors.
Footpath officer, are you there?
Mute, Anthony.
Sorry about that. Yes, well, there wasn't any need to do that because basically I've contacted the council, and if I log any ones that aren't right, they will hopefully come and fix them. So I've started logging them. If anybody knows of any that they think need looking at, the only one I've actually put on at the moment is the one at the bottom of Church Lane, which is bent, and the actual signs are faded. So I put that one on, and that'll hopefully be taken care of by the council. But if anybody knows of any they want looked at, let me know and I'll put them on as well.
Okay, and then the next one was.
Can I just say, Anthony, thanks for that. But I'm sure there are others, and so can I call upon everyone in the village that may be walking to sort of make a note? I thought there was a couple. I'm just trying to think now. So I'll look at mine as well. But it would be nice to try and get them all up and polished and presentable and everything else. So if I could ask councillors and officers to keep that going so we can see at the next meeting where we are. I think we've asked before, but nobody's actually come forward with anything. So, well, there's some keen walkers I know in the village with dogs and otherwise, as long as they can get through the various fences and stiles and security barriers. Okay, all right. Thanks, Anthony.
And the next one was for Nick to write to Mr. and Mrs. Mole to thank them for the work they've done around the flooding on Chiltern Road.
Yeah, I didn't write to them. I went and visited them, and they were over the moon. I took them a nice bottle of champagne. That reminds me, Robert, there will be a receipt winging its way to you soon for a bottle of their best champagne. Well, shall we say a good priced champagne from Majestic. And also I took a card, handwritten and signed by me and on behalf of the council to say fantastic. And actually Caroline came out initially and they were over the moon. Really thought it was a very touching thing to do. So yeah, done.
Okay, and then the next one was Nick to produce a leaflet to remind residents to park with care at the top of Lower School Lane.
I seem to be failing miserably at reducing the amount of actions I've got on these minutes, Helen. I think we need to talk about this quietly. Yes, I've actually talked to the residents again today, 2 of them. I've been talking to them for the last week, and lo and behold, I happened to be in Old Plough Close again this morning, dropping some leaflets of information that some people might want to see, some people might want to put in the bin, and came out again, and the vans that were working for Dave and Julia were all parked neatly on the side. So I've had no further complaints, but I know Robert, or you guys that live in that neck of the woods, whether you've seen any improvement at all. Anthony?
I think it's getting better at the moment. It's keeping people at it.
Yeah. Anthony, have you seen any improvements?
Yeah, I mean, depends how many vehicles are around, basically, because if there are a lot of builders, they can be on the path. But
yeah,
today I went up there. Yeah, people had actually parked on the road as opposed to on the path.
Oh right, okay. Well, that's good. And as I said, I just thought it would be better to try and do it on a face-to-face basis to start with. If it gets a little bit tighter, then I'll put a leaflet together. But I don't like leaflets. It's much nicer to just sort of say to people, can you do and can you help out? So far so good, but I'll keep an eye on it.
And then the next one was Julia was going to order some stickers to show that the flooding signs were owned by the parish council.
Yes, that was on my list. But then I think John Lewis, I saw then an email that someone had already chosen one.
Yeah, so you're right, I did. I found some. I think 1 or 2 people said, yes, go ahead and order them. And it was my intention to do that. And it remains an intention, I'm afraid. It's got overlooked. I'll get on with it.
So I'll just change that as an action to you then, John, shall I?
Yes, that'd be fine, Helen, thank you.
Okay. Then the next one was for Nick to chase the delivery of high-vis sandbags ordered on Amazon.
Yeah, I've talked to Caroline, Rob, when I was down as well. They see no reason as to why we need to do that. They're quite happy with the materials they've got down there. So I've cancelled the order on the basis it saves us 20 quid or something. And also I've suggested to them that because Caroline had mentioned that the signs and the cones are still just sitting on the side, that maybe they'd like to look after them in their sheds, just in case they needed more for the future.
And then the final action was, which I know has been done, was for John Lewis to arrange a separate meeting to discuss the annual village meeting. And that's all the action points from the last meeting.
John? You're muted.
Lost you, John.
You're on mute. Go.
Sorry, did pressing the space bar not unmute me like it's meant to?
I see your lips working, but not anything coming out.
Okay, yes, I was saying, yes, that was done. Did you want me to talk more about it at the moment or leave it till later?
Is it on the agenda?
I think the important thing that came out of it are the future dates, and it might be appropriate to talk about that when we get to the next meeting dates.
Okay, cool. just on going back slightly, Anthony, any luck on the measuring stick for the bridge?
Yes and no. I've had a quote from the people who do that sort of thing, and it was £750. So I thought we might be able to do a bit better than that.
150 quid for a ruler.
It's only 2 meters as well. But, so I was going to try the people in Aylesbury and see if they can make something up. Obviously you've got to get something that's going to stand the water on it as well.
Were these the people we saw when we were litter picking?
Yeah, I haven't got a quote from them. No, the quote I got was from the people who specialise in doing these things.
Okay.
By rivers, but it was horrendously expensive. And
yeah, I think yeah, you're quite right. We need to revisit that.
Yeah.
I think just a paintbrush all required. Just a paintbrush on the side of the bridge.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well let's
I'll have a word with them anyway. I'll speak to the people in Aylesbury and see if they can do something more reasonable. But
yeah, it was impact signs, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, let's give them a go and see if we can't get that popped in there. Okay, thanks, Anthony. So I think that's all the actions, Helen.
It is, yeah.
Very good. Mr. Bound, planning.
Oh, right, okay. Yes, we've just got 2 applications we've looked at during the course of this month, and quite coincidentally, they're both agricultural, which obviously has very different rules attached to them than the residential. The first one was a proposed steel portal frame building to be used as a general store up at Chearsley Hill House. And our overall comments here were that we do have a policy of protecting the views over the area of outstanding natural countryside, and we have in the past rejected applications of residential development behind the building line on Chiltern Road. We do acknowledge the fact this is an agricultural application, as I say, which does have different rules, but it would still have a negative effect on the open views over that area. We did acknowledge that the siting of it was probably as good as it could be to visualize to minimize rather the visual impact. But at the end of the day, we weren't in a position to formally oppose the application, nor did we feel we should support it. So we purely left it. The parish council's preference was that the development did not take place, and that was the nature of our response to the ABDC on that. I think that covers it. Anybody got any queries on that, or was that as we agreed?
Yeah, I think that was spot on, Paul.
And that was lodged. I haven't got the date, sorry, that was lodged anyway with the authorities. The second application was for the erection of a new building for storage and production of animal feeding. That was at Grove Farm. And we looked at this with a half with an aesthetic point of view and half looking at the requirements of the Town and Country Planning Order 2015, which affects this type of building. And again, we put forward comments as opposed to a support or rejection of the application. I'll just very briefly outline the 3 points we raised. Firstly, we felt the application form was incomplete because there is now a residential building on the site there, which wasn't included on the location plan for the application. And for completeness, we felt it should be there. Whether or not the ABDC agree with that or feel it needs to be revised is up to them, but all we've done is pointed it out just to show the quantum of buildings on the site there. We've requested the Highways Department review the access aspects related to the application because a further agricultural building on this site will definitely lead to an intensification of the use of the access. There are now, the new permitted agricultural dwelling and a number of agricultural buildings to the southwest and the northeast side of this access road. So this was just another building going there. And it is a busy road. It's actually quite a dangerous road to come off, and it's not well sited. But the highways authorities do have rules attached to that. The access was widened to 8 meters some time back to accommodate one of the last applications. This is further traffic going into the site. The last one, again, I suppose we're sort of slightly ignorant of the actual rules relating to numbers or volume of outbuildings in relation to the size of a farm, but there's 80.9 hectares on the site. And there are already a large number of agricultural buildings totaling over 4,000 square meters. And this application, which is another 1,000 square meters, would take it up to 5,000. So if there is a preferred ratio of farmlands to building services, we would like that to be looked at, because at the end of the day, the additional building is just a further incursion into the open countryside. So again, we didn't object to the application. We certainly didn't support it, and we just asked for our comments to be taken into account. That's it, Chairman, unless anyone wants to add anything. That was submitted.
I think, if I may say, before anybody else comments, Paul, on these two particular applications, I think you've done an absolutely stunning job. Because I think you've weighed up the balance that we were always trying to achieve in the village between encouraging people to have sensible, sustainable developments that are both for housing, agriculture, and you name it, but at the same time making sure that we protect and look after the interests of our beautiful landscape. So thank you from me and councillors,
Yeah, thank you for that. And also, can I just say, it's nice to have a full turnout on site on both counts, because it's nice when there's a unanimity, if you like, of views, and opportunity for everybody to look at it on site, because that's when you see what the issues are.
Yeah.
So thank you. That's the only two items we had.
No, great. Any comments, councillors?
I think just to point out, there is no hard and fast rule between the amount of buildings on a farm and the land area, because that particular instance, it's a farm that fattens cattle, beef cattle, and it imports a lot of the food onto the site to go with that process. So there isn't any direct relationship between the area of the farm and the amount of buildings.
It's sad in a way, isn't it? Because it just could mean that, obviously it's taking things to the nth degree, but someone could completely 100% develop that site on that basis under presumed development.
Yeah, and that's what we need to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
I agree, Paul. Martin, wanted to say something? Well, I've read your lips and you said no.
Yes, correct. I don't.
Good. Anybody else like to comment at all? No. Okay. No, John Lewis, you're looking as though you want to say something.
No, not really, Chairman. I was really just going to echo your comments
fine,
to Paul. I think that's a great job you've done for us there, Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I should thank my script writer, Mr. Lewis, on the first one, my English writer.
The marvellous thing about having technology in front of us all the time is that I've actually got some other things going on in front of me, which I'm trying to respond to. And I just sent a quick message to somebody in the village about something sort of not similar, but similar. And they've just texted me back and said, concentrate on the meeting, Chairman. So, hello, Adam. How are you? And welcome to the meeting.
I'm sure we would all second those comments from our perceptive watcher.
Can I just clarify? Can I just clarify that means that you're not putting the football on at 8 o'clock?
No, I'm not. God, you can't move, you know, it's wonderful. Anyway, good to see you there, Adam Laz, looking in on us. I'm hoping the rest of the village are here too. Correspondence, Helen.
So there was an email from Derek Allen regarding dog fouling down near the Stockwell, and I think that then prompted a bit of a discussion amongst councillors about whether or not we needed a public spaces protection order. So that's the main piece of correspondence that we might want to discuss.
Who's the expert on this? We've had a similar, these dog bins keep rearing their heads, and we're betwixt and between the situation where we know that people have got to stop being lazy and they've got to pick up their dog's doings, and equally, if they don't, should we have a bin? And it's a really difficult conundrum. But I don't have views from Keith. Sorry.
But there's bins, there are 2 bins down there, so it's not a question of bins in this case. It's well provided for. It's just sheer poor communal behaviour.
Yeah, I agree totally. You can put bins there for the eternity, and we now have more bins than most villages around us. I think we've clarified. So if they're not going to use them, it's no good putting more there.
So what solutions are there? What can we do to nail these people or monitor them or penalise them? I don't know.
Well, I was looking into I was looking into things that other councils have done, sort of district councils and parish councils. The route we want to go down. You can get localised dog control orders, which means you can stipulate that dogs need to be on leads in certain areas, and also it then means that people can be fined for not picking up after their dog. And also along the same kind of line is the PSPO, which is the same kind of thing. And obviously, as parish councillors, we couldn't issue fines, but we could have people trained to issue fines, enforcement officers. So we can't as parish councillors, but for example, I don't know, my husband could, you know what I mean. We could get volunteers who could do that, or PCSOs, but the only thing is monitoring it, and how. I mean, we probably all know somebody that we suspect is one of the culprits, and then it's just whether we need to name and shame sort of locally. I think everyone would agree, apart from the people that actually do it, everyone would agree that it is a very antisocial thing, and it ruins everything, ruins things for responsible dog owners, ruins the enjoyment of our village space.
Yeah, you're freezing a bit there, Jules.
By villagers and family. I don't know specific areas that are worse than others that we could pinpoint. Is
there an organisation in the Aylesbury district or Bucks district that could come in and talk to us properly? I'm not suggesting you haven't, but you know what I mean. Somebody officially that could come in and maybe advise and walk the lanes with us to see what is the art of the possible.
All the research I've done has been on the local government websites, and as I think the latest one I could find was a Milton Keynes council. Last year they put one in, and they were able to advertise. You have to advertise what you're doing, how you're doing it, and that people can be fined. I'm not sure if there's a specific, unless there's someone at the council where. At the Buckinghamshire Council that can come, that deals with all of this. I don't know actually. I could look into it though.
Why don't you give Connor a call at Street Scene?
Yeah.
I'm not guessing he's the dog expert, but because he heads up Street Scene and picking up of the foulest of rubbish and bins, he's just done all the Chearsley litter pick stuff. he would
Yeah.
probably know the contacts, and I've got a number for him, a direct number.
Yeah.
And that's how we got rid of all the rubbish here.
Yeah,
which
I mean, obviously, if we decided to go down one of those routes with an official in an official capacity, there would need to be a small amount of signage. I think you've probably seen them before in other places, the little tiny squares. But we have to work out which is the lesser of two evils, to have a slightly more additional signage, just to highlight the fact that if you get caught doing this, then you could be fined, or whether you want to just put up with the dog poo. So I can be the dog poo czar of Chearsley.
the dog.
It's all glamour, isn't it?
Do you have to realise on this matter, Jules, that you don't get a dog poo czar high vis badge.
Oh man, I'll have to get one made up.
That's a great thing to suggest, and thank you. I'll text you later once I've dug the email out from Ken Birkby, who sent it to me from Cuddington. I've got his
then I'll speak to them.
I've got Connor's direct number.
Yeah.
He's been really, really helpful. So he might just get you in the right zone and everything else. So I think, well, councillors, what do you think? I mean, I think that's a good way forward.
Yeah, I think it's a good way forward. And the other thing in the documentation that Jules sent round was, you know, if we go through some of these orders to have wider consultation, which I actually think is a good idea anyway, just to make sure everyone's really aware of the issue, and also maybe take any other input. Otherwise, you know, Jules will have to take a caravan and position it strategically and spy on people with a long-range camera or something.
With my night vision goggles.
Will she be doing her Zoom call, the next parish council meeting from the caravan next to Stockholm? I think it's a bit like country. It's a bit like countryside. It's like watching dog poo at night under the infrared.
We will catch you.
And I think it's bloody good, though. Seriously, I think it's an excellent initiative, and it is causing us problems. And I really do wish, and I know I'm promoting it sometimes because I get so fed up with dog poo bags being left everywhere. So I say, come on, bins. But you make a fair point. I mean, we don't want to end up as dog bin city.
Yeah,
so
in that particular location, there's 2 bins though. So
yeah.
More bins won't lessen the dog poo. I found that on my footpath across my paddock as well. It's just disgusting behaviour. People just don't deserve to have animals if they can't think about their fellow human beings at the same time. Disgraceful.
I think that's the point that I would make here. You know that I mean, orders of the sort we're talking about are pretty heavyweight things, and Derek said that in his letter, didn't he?
Yeah.
And enforcement is always the issue. It's one thing making an order. It's something else spotting that somebody is breaching it, but it's even more doing something about it if you do even spot that they're doing it. So it's a difficult road to go down. I think it's one that we should sort of keep on the table as a possibility. But for me, the main thing we ought to be doing is shouting as loud as we can and in whatever way we can to those unsociable people in the village who seem to think that it's okay to leave this mess lying around.
Or come to the village.
Yeah, and if everybody in the village can try and join in this campaign, and if anybody sees anybody leaving a mess, just tap them on the shoulder and say, "Excuse me." And if we could perhaps mention it even on these meetings pretty frequently, and let's just try and get the message out there. This is not acceptable behaviour.
Yeah, I think absolutely right, John. And Jules, thank you for volunteering. If it comes to us, maybe Giles could become, your dog officer.
Well, and I hope I'm not locked up because I'm having a connection problem. But also, I think as well, we need to be encouraging people to, if they do pick up, which is fabulous, to then take the poo bags either to the dog bins or to their own bin at home and not just hang them on the nearest bush.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, brilliant.
Sorry, Nick, just before we move off that, I think we ought to just make a note of the fact that there are other people apart from Chearsley parishioners that walk in the village.
Yeah, Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
So our messages to those people in the village and to those that are coming as well. And certainly I wouldn't hesitate to approach somebody that was.
Oh, right. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I have done, by the way, in the past. Yeah.
It'd be interesting, won't it, when the pandemic eventually fades away, we hope, and see just how many people actually will walk from further afield, Paul. I understand why they're doing it, by the way. I'm not knocking their exercise possibilities, but I think that will help. But also, on the contrary, more people have got dogs in the pandemic. So, okay, that's a good discussion. So thanks, Jules, again, and we'll move on that. Any other correspondence, Helen?
Yeah, there was an email from David Patrick Brown regarding the paths across to Long Crendon and the changes that have been made to them. So I don't know if you wanted me to read it out or if everyone's aware of that email that was sent at the beginning of the month.
Did I not circulate? Because I did.
I think it was sent to everyone on the PC, so everyone should have received it, yeah.
I think the general contents need to be circulated because there are other people apart from councillors that are listening to the meeting.
Did you want me to read out the email then, or?
I think so, or at least summarise the content.
Yeah, summarise and put in the minutes.
Okay, but perhaps I'll just read the first paragraph. So there's been some changes to the path across to Long Crendon, especially access to the path that runs alongside Church Lane and connects the churchyard with the Chearsley Long Crendon path. The changes include installation of a fine wire mesh to the churchyard style and the complete removal of the gate at the Chearsley Long Crendon path end. The gate has been replaced with a crude single tread style that requires it. Well, basically, there's difficulty getting over it, is what he's saying essentially. Wire netting has been added, which is not helping dogs get through unless they're tiny. And this, is just saying that having walked the path for more than 30 years, it's an ancient right of way. And he feels that it's kind of being blocked off for everyone but the youngest and fittest. It's preventing people being able to access the path. That's kind of essentially the point.
Yeah. And I did respond to him. Have you got my note there? Yeah. Was that circulated to all the councillors?
Yeah. It was, yeah. Yes,
yeah.
You have responded, Nick. Yeah, you have responded. Did you want me to read out your response, or?
No, I mean, if the councillors have got it, that's fine. I was basically thanking him for bringing this to our attention, that I wholly agreed that there are things that need to be done, but it was in hand. And as soon as I could give complete transparency without, I was trying to pay respect to the Haybrookes, etc., in, these discussions before. But I think, John, you may come in on this later anyway, because of your dealings today.
Yes, I might as well come in now, Nick, whilst we're on the subject. It's fairly brief, really. I did have a meeting with Rosedale today to discuss both the style and the whole issue of the fencing and the footpaths, etc. It was a useful discussion where kind of both sides, if I can describe it that way, kind of explained where they were coming from and the reason they were either doing things or disliking things. There was a positive outcome to it. I'm not going to say any more at the moment because discussions are ongoing, but let me just say it was positive.
Great.
If I may say, sorry, go on, Councillor.
No, I was just going to say, I suspect Helen was going to mention anyway, but there was also correspondence from Fenella on the question of styles, and I'll be dealing with Rose directly on that particular style.
Yeah. I think Fenella's been very active, and thanks to her, because she's also involved other outside agency, which obviously helps the debate. But yeah.
Sorry, Paul, is that the style that goes across from Rose to you? Is that right?
It's the one that's right down the bottom by the river. Yeah.
All right. Are we going to be allowed to put a gate on that?
I think it's a longer debate, but I've already emailed everybody on it. But frankly, on the basis that people can walk up to the kissing gate that was, which is now a metal gate, and walk across the top there. I don't personally see as any need to put a gate there. I think the stile just needs repairing.
It's just for people who are slightly, not good at getting across stiles. It makes a little loop for them to walk around.
Well, the point is that up until lockdown, that footpath really hadn't been used for about 7 or 8 years because they couldn't get behind my trees that I've now cut down. But if they don't go across the stile, then all they need to do is walk up a piece of common land and turn right, and they'll end up exactly where the footpath would have finished previously.
I think this is the problem. This is one of the problems we're facing and the challenges that we're facing. And it's as pertinent to that area, Paul Anthony, as it is to this gate that was removed at the top of the steps of Church Lane to be replaced by a pole vaulting area. I've now spoken to some actually quite elderly people in the village who remember walking, for instance, those paths years and years ago, and are quite upset about it. So I get the bit about if you take church, without getting emotive down across your meadow, Paul, if you just take the church steps for an example, it's easy to say, yes, walk down Church Lane and go into the church. Yeah, it is, of course, and people have that choice. But if it is a historical footpath that has been enjoyed for decades and decades and decades, it shouldn't be the case that it's then, shall we say, obstructed.
No, I agree. But the one going into the church, it's been a stile there for 200 years. So if you get to turn that into a gate as well, I just take the view. I look across the countryside. I fully appreciate the fact that some people, need different access areas. But if you go across past beyond Chearsley, there are stiles all over the place. There are some. So if you are, partially able, then obviously you need to pick those routes where they've got gates. I'm not in favour of changing the stile going into the gate, which is going into the church that's been there for 200 or 300 years. That's my personal opinion, which I won't shift on. But I understand the counterpoint. There wasn't a gate at the top that you're referring to. It was just open, of course, before that bit was fenced.
Well, we'll keep plugging away. I think it's important to try and keep these on. And just recently, you may have seen, I've now got permission from Simon Vickers to put in 2 new gates, proper kissing gates into his field, bottom field, and beyond on the land owned by John Lloyd. James Gibson has been hugely supportive and continues to be. And I know that there are other gates going in with Cuddington, Winchendon, that just help people's mobility, I suppose. But I understand the balance that needs to be struck, and maybe sometimes these things, individual gates, probably styles need to be judged on their merits at the time. Good. Okay. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Anthony. So I think the outcome of that is that we've got to get the stile at least repaired across the meadow and properly, put together. And John, obviously for you, it's about making that stile more of a stile and not an Olympic high jump. And actually, into the churchyard, it still needs some attention as well. So that's good.
The stile at the bottom end of that footpath, you mean, into the churchyard?
Yeah, they've done some work.
That style's okay, I think. I went over it this morning. I couldn't see any problem with it.
Well, it's been reinforced then. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, the bottom strut was loose, and I think that's been done. That's why I was surprised the other one hadn't.
Oh, okay. And we'll work on the issue of dogs being able to walk with their owners, I suppose, over time with this low-level fencing. Right. Any more correspondence, Helen?
No, I believe that's it.
So, Robert, Parks, Finance.
Thank you, Chair. It was a very brief report this month because there's been very little activity. What I really wanted to do was bring everyone's attention to the draft accounts.
Yep.
Firstly, to get your reaction to see whether you feel that covers all of the issues that we need to cover. And as a secondary issue, we need to, or you need to please endorse the appointment of JEA as the internal auditors for this year.
Yeah. Well, should we do the latter first?
Yeah, by all means.
I mean, I'm more than happy for them to continue. Could we have a show of hands, please, for those in favour of the accounts going to JE accountants? Yeah, cool. I think that.
What I've done with the draft accounts, I've effectively done them up until February, really to try and get the shape and the balance right. But there are a couple of judgmental areas in there. One is, the main one really, is how we describe the closing cash at the end of the year, because there's going to be a significant amount, and it looks, and here I'm looking at John Lewis because I know John's involved, it looks as if we're still going to be holding the village trust funds at the end of the year, which might raise the auditor's eyebrows a little bit, but we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get to it.
Are they not, I have written to Sheepy a couple of times, John, but have they still not been able to set up an account?
You're mute again, John.
I quite like that.
As far as I know, he's, well, not as far as I know, I do know that he's on the case and was actively filling in the necessary documentation a couple of weeks back. I haven't had an update since then, so I don't know whether he's hit another snag or whether it's just a case of the time that it takes wheels to turn. But I will drop him a note. Well, he may even be listening, of course, but I'll drop him a note anyway after this meeting and just see where he's got to.
I think Lloyd's are just slow.
Yeah, it could well be. I mean, ideally, I couldn't agree with you more, Robert, that if we could get this money off the books by the end of the year, it would make the shape of things look much better. If that proves not possible, then I don't suppose we can do a lot more than you have. You've made a note there that some of it isn't ours. I mean, I don't know whether it's possible to have a subtotal in there, maybe showing what the position would be if the money wasn't there, and then another couple of lines showing what's actually there. It's a case of how you think we can best present it to be clear.
I'm not sure the auditors will be comfortable with that, because it is incoming and outgoing cash rather than profit and loss account. So I think we just have to try and explain it away as much as possible.
Yes, I mean the note you've got there is fairly clear. So it just needs people to read it, of course.
Yeah, well, that's the point.
Yeah, I agree with that, John. I think that, Robert, I think that you've been completely transparent, and you've got to be reasonably not in control of your thinking if you don't get it. Yeah, I mean, any other councillors with the views? Look, it's very explainable.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Well, if everyone's comfortable with it, I'll go with it and just deal with the questions if and as they arise.
Yeah, I personally feel, and I'm sure that will be very spot on, Robert, so I can't see there should be anybody questioning that transparency.
Okay.
Yeah. So all those in favour of progressing on that in that format with Robert essentially signing these off. We're signing these off for Robert, and come the auditors, we will then be in a position, or Robert may be in a position of having to explain a bit more detail just to clarify what exactly it is we've been doing. I think that, is that Robert?
Yeah.
All those in favour, raise a hand. I think that's unanimous.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
I should have the full draft accounts for the next meeting.
Brilliant.
As long as you get your expenses to me, Chairman.
For those watching it, I think he's joking. I think that no, I was bumped into a couple of people today, funny enough, from Bucks County Council. we're waxing lyrical about the performance of this council, Parish Council in particular, the transparency and the professionalism around the numbers. Just thought I'd drop that in, Robert, you know. Good, well done, thank you. Okay, so reports from councillors attending meetings and outside organisations. Any?
Chairman, I'll perhaps say just a couple of words about one that I went to. This was the East West Rail HS2 working group of Bucks Council. I actually went along primarily in my capacity as chairman of the freight working group, but what goes on there, of course, is of interest to the village. This was a particularly interesting meeting because the MP or the minister responsible for HS2 is in attendance. That's Andrew Stevenson, and he came along and answered a number of questions directly. These were pre-submitted questions, and then stayed for a very large part, if not all, of the meeting. So it was good to get his attention on what was going on. In actual fact, I have to say there wasn't a great deal of variation in what he had to deal with. The issues almost universally are villages suffering one way or another from the extra heavy traffic going through them, and the various impacts of this traffic, and what will be done about it. Related to that, the various conditions that the companies on both of those projects are meant to be following, the extent to which they are following them, and the reasons they're not. That really captured most of the discussion, not only of questions to the minister, but also subsequent questions on the various other items on the agenda. I think probably our take on it from our point of view would be that, fortunately for us, we're a little way away from all of the action there, so we're not suffering any problems at the moment, as we know, and it makes you feel grateful that we're not, when you hear the difficulties that some other parish councils are having to put up with. And I think all we can do is sort of lend our support as and when and how it's possible, but I'm not sure there's a great deal that we can actively do, but stand ready to do it if we think we can.
Yeah, John, you might also want to mention the councillors not aware officers of a forthcoming telephone conversation, which John Howard is also invited to with Greg Smith. Okay, yes, that's probably worth mentioning. This is on Monday next, and it relates to it's sort of focused on the junction in the village. This is our Horse Chestnut Island junction, and the project we've got on to improve that junction, but it's in the context of freight traffic across the county in general, and where those two coincide, i.e. the impact of heavy freight vehicles on that junction. So Greg Smith has picked this up as something that he thinks it's worth getting interested in, and we'll be having a discussion, we being Nick, myself, and John, on Monday, along with Ian Kelly, his I don't know, personal assistant, is it, or under parliamentary secretary? Yeah.
Parliamentary secretary, sorry, yeah. So that will be an interesting opportunity for us to explain the difficulties we have here at that junction, and as I say, put them in the context of the wider freight difficulties across the county.
Yeah. So that's a real strength, really. I mean, Greg's been hugely supportive on some of these matters, and in fact, just reporting again that I've got a Zoom telephone conversation with him and the managing director of Network Rail at the end of this week, I think. I need to check my diary, because we're just really cheesed off about the way things have happened with all the fencing alongside the railway line, with very little consultation, very little information, just understanding what their tactics are, what their strategy is, how they should be informing us, how they should be keeping us in the, all that sort of stuff. So he's really actively got, pitched in and, introduced us to a few people that I think hopefully will make a bit of a difference. So I'll report back on that as well shortly after that meeting. Then we'll put it on the agenda, maybe, Helen, to discuss briefly at the next parish council meeting.
Perhaps worth mentioning in that context, Nick, the fact that both Mike Haybrook has written to Network Rail, I think, and obviously you've been lobbying via Greg to get something done about that fencing that exists. There's the issue, as you say, of the lack of consultation, but it's grotesque white colour, and the fact that that lobbying has managed to get the thing painted black, which is a huge improvement.
Yeah. And just to confirm, I have kept Rosedale and Michael Haybrook in the loop about what's going on and what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to divorce the issues that are currently going on in the village, and that's another important one for them as well as us. So, it's this striking the balance so that we get people involved when they need to be involved. Okay, John. Great. Any other meetings or
got John H?
John Howard.
Yes. With reference to the meeting that Ian Kelly set up on Monday week, I think we've also got the Aylesbury Road on the agenda, haven't we? As far as I'm aware.
Yes.
Yes. Surfacing thereof.
Sorry?
The surfacing thereof.
Yes. And the fact that we've made very little progress because we believe, because of the number of agencies and different agencies involved, and really the need to bang heads together before any long-term solution. So I'm looking forward to. I'm glad, Nick, that you've got that on the agenda, because that's
well. I mean, thanks to you, John, because I basically took everything that you had written and included all the photographs that you took. I included my bit was, "Hi Greg, how's it going? Here it is," and then "Kind regards, Nick Brown." So, he's got the lock, stock and barrel of it. And he's really very interested, because his comment on he was in Long Crendon a couple of days ago, helping out with some stuff with Cameron Branson, the local councillor there. And he said, these need to be addressed. And I can't understand why, in particular, that road, given what the councillors have achieved here and the general sort of condition of our roads, why the hell that's not been achieved. So I think we said, God, a year or two ago, and I think it's absolutely true, that these things won't happen sometimes overnight, but if we can collect the right data, pictures, keep knocking, keep ploughing, keep going for it, sooner or later, whether it's because we've become a huge irritant or actually they've taken some real notice of the right reasons, they do something about it, which is brilliant. And so credit to everybody who's got pitched in on this, because again, it gets noticed, even though sometimes I say people say, "Oh, bloody Chearsley again." But yeah, bloody right, Chearsley. Absolutely bloody Chearsley. Hello, do something about it. Sorry about my language. Anyway, I must phone and give my apologies to Jackie Weaver. John.
Yeah, just a couple of other things from me. I did send a note round to everybody. I attended the twice yearly Transport for Bucks stakeholder meeting, and there were a couple of things that came up. One of the issues that came up, which Robert has actually come back on, and we agreed that I'd just raise it tonight, is that the council are looking at the whole process of devolved services. And we have just, we haven't got involved because we knew that the whole process of devolved services, i.e. us taking on responsibilities and getting a little bit of money back for works that we undertake. They are looking at the whole area, and they stressed that they are doing, they're going to be doing a lot of trial work. And I think what Robert was suggesting, that would there be an interest on behalf of Chearsley Parish Council to get involved in the trial. I think we need to review where we are and look at the areas that we would like to assume greater responsibility for. So we've got to do a bit of homework. But the question is there an interest in us becoming involved in some of the trial work? And I think there probably is a very good case for that.
Yeah. I mean, we have an interesting situation at the moment where, really and honestly, we are not getting the services that we are paying for through our parish council levies anyway. If you look at what the council are supposed to do, they are neglectful of virtually all the duties. So the devolved services means that if they are devolved, then we can deal with them. Whereas at the moment, they're just not happening anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth investigating and seeing exactly what they've got to offer and see where we go from there. But at the moment, we're not getting the services anyway.
Well, I'm very happy to. We were invited at the meeting to get back to them, and hopefully I'll receive the minutes sooner rather than later, and there was going to be a process, and I'll keep everybody posted. But I think quite often getting involved in these things also does give you the opportunity and a platform to have shall I say, a considered moan rather than just a shouty moan, but a considered moan.
I think both are due, actually.
You are?
I think both are due.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Tom.
One final point, just I think also for the benefit of our audience tonight, that there was an announcement recently, and a big item on discussion at the stakeholder meeting was the situation with drainage, which has got woefully behind in the last few years, and of course has been hugely exacerbated by the bad weather that we've had. And Bucks Council have been very forthright in saying we've now got the funds to do all the drains and basically in the next 12 months to catch up with work that simply hasn't been done. And I think what's very important from our point of view, and I know, Keith, you've already taken action on drainage problems in Aylesbury Road. We were delighted the other week to get the drainage problems at the bottom of Lower Green Lane sorted out and uncover pipe work that's been buried probably for at least 30 years.
Yeah,
so
decades.
It can be done. And we've also got, I had a chat with Colin. I mean, he's hopelessly overworked and behind at the minute. He's our local area technician, but we have got Church Lane drains on their radar. And really, my message is to everybody: if there are problems near where you live, please highlight them. Let's get them logged in the system, because we've had a promise that they're going to be dealt with in the next 12 months. I'm going to report. We've been doing a little bit of work up at the allotments, and again, there is a pipe that has been blocked. We've slightly uncovered it. It must have been blocked for years and years and years, and I'm going to log that for being properly cleared. So
just as a resident of Lower Green Lane, thank you very much, John, for getting that organised.
Well, it's all right. Well, I think it was a joint effort between yourself, Darren Sampson, providing the real input that on the ground that led to the them devoting the resources that, quite frankly, should have been done years ago, but haven't been done for 30 odd. Well, certainly since you said to me, Andrew, you've never seen that drain in your life.
I've been here over 20 years now.
So it's
but we just have got
an archaeological relic, but it's very good that it's seen the light of day.
Yeah, but we have got a small problem a little further up now, so I'll tell you about that another time.
Can I just can I just say something? And just to clarify that when you say you want people to report things, you want them to report on Fix My Street?
Yes, that's where drainage, if it is a drainage issue, is reported. Yes.
Yeah, because I know it's very easy to do, isn't it? So that's fine. Cool.
Yeah.
And the key to it as well, Jules, is continually follow it up, because I think John and others have had doubts about the, shall I put it, the strength of their response in terms of actually, I think there have been occasions when a response has been made sort of saying it's okay, but actually nothing's really been done. And I think we just got to keep on at them. I know they're under resourced, well, that's their problem, but these things are reported. We have to have an outcome. I'd just like to reinforce the message at John. I mean, I got involved in the very early stages, and John Howard very graciously took over. Anthony dived in with both hands, and Darren Sampson was brilliant. And it's funny because I called in on Darren a couple of days ago when I was dropping some leaflets around. He was absolutely over the moon. He said, I've never had a dry basement cellar in all the years we've been here and beyond. So just little nuggets like that make one hell of a difference. And so, I mean, the team and Colin for getting his men down there, because it was some dig. This was no little couple of spades. This was a huge, you go and see it, it's huge.
Oh, yeah.
I think well done, well done.
Yeah, I'd also like to just highlight that Ann Person generously allowed their diggers and vehicles to use her land as well. So she was also part of our solution to this problem.
They didn't supply sort of brandy coffees and hot sausage rolls then, John? Okay.
No, they just got on with their job.
Fantastic.
They cracked
good old British workmen. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, just to say on Fix My Street, I will probably in the next couple of weeks be circulating a report. As you know, with my involvement with not the stakeholder meeting, but with the Transport Focus Group, they are having a look at Fix My Street, and I'm building up quite a casebook now of evidence, which I'll put together. And I know that you, Julia, also Anthony and Keith have also put logged complaints with Fix My Street, and I want to put all that work together. I've done about 5 or 6, and there's quite a common thread going out, but let's not take that further tonight. I will circulate a sort of draft report, and we'll hopefully it will be noted by the powers that be.
Thanks.
Okay. I was just going to say that I attended the elections briefing last Wednesday, and just to say that I've got 7 copies of the election papers here. So the council have sent to the clerks 1 copy of the nomination papers, per seat. So I don't know whether it's better for those papers to be delivered to Chearsley, so that if people are going to be standing again, or if there's anybody new, they can collect those papers to fill in, because they are quite chunky for people to be printing off.
Well, I'm assuming, Helen, that for those people who want to stand on the council now, is there any chance of just putting those in the post, a set each? And then if you can let me have 4 or 5 spare copies. I have a number of people who have approached me directly showing interest. And I've got to call some people back tomorrow, just asking questions, but I'm not sure about my involvement in this, actually. John Lewis, so you have a bit more guidance, or Helen, but people have been approaching me by email, by telephone, saying could be interested, like to meet up, like to ask a few questions, etc., etc. Is that legal? Is that the right way to be?
I'm not aware of any problem with that, Nick. I think, to be honest, it would be preferable if people went to Helen, assuming you don't mind, Helen. But I think,
yeah, I mean, there are a couple of now publications that sort of give you a bit more information on what it is to be a councillor that I can email out to people, or or they can have a chat, whatever they prefer.
Yes, I think it, Nick. I mean, this is a personal view based on what I've read. It's not any official view, but I would say there's absolutely nothing wrong with people wanting to approach you or any of the rest of us if they want to get a feel for what's it like to be a councillor, sort of thing. Yeah. But when it comes to anything official in terms of submitting an application, or how is it done, or who does it go to, then we should refer them to Helen. Who should be the the channel for all that sort of stuff.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So what was the conclusion on what I'm doing with the nomination papers?
I'm just a bit surprised, actually, Helen, that they've sent you 7 copies. I mean, the fact that there's 7 councillor positions, there could be 20 people wanting to stand for election needing those papers, couldn't there? So you might like to ask them why only 7. But more realistically, is what you've got, do you know, the same as the material that we sent out and we've got links to on the website?
Yes, it's identical. I've checked and it's identical to that. So
in that case,
it seems a shame if I've got the 7 copies for people to print them off if they want them and me to then put them in the bin. So just a bit basically say they're there. And if you want me to deliver all 7 copies to Chearsley, I'm happy to do that.
Why don't we say, Nick, why don't we leave them with Helen? Anybody who asks, refer them to the website where the stuff is available. But if for any reason they would prefer have a ready printed copy, then we can say, Helen, you've got 7 for the first 7 people that ask for them, or something like that.
Okay. And the only other thing that really came out is I think you have to put the polling district code and the elector numbers on the nomination papers. So you can ring the elections office to get that information, or it is on the electoral register, which I have a copy of, so I can give you people the phone number for the elections office if they need it. And if someone was going to submit, for example, all the nomination papers to Chearsley in one go, then it's worth ringing Joe Hart to make an appointment if we're submitting several nomination papers in one go, because I think it just takes a while for them all to be checked.
So I think that they have to be submitted in person, don't they?
Yeah.
Are you willing to be that single person if people get them to you?
I know in the stuff that came from Carol at Balk, she was sort of suggesting that it wasn't best practice for the clerks to submit them. I'm not sure why, but it did sort of say that in her email. It's not best practice, but I'm not sure why.
I'm a lot. I would have thought the clerk was the obvious person.
Yeah, we did it in the past. The clerk did it in the past.
Yes. I mean, perhaps we could get some guidance again from, I forget the girl's name in the electoral office.
Joe Hart.
Yes. Ask her view as to who should be doing this. But, you know, it seems a bit off that an existing councillor is given that job. He might lose some on the way or something. Yeah. Not that they would, but you see what I mean? It's marginally less neutral than the clerk, I would have thought.
Yeah.
And is that preferable, presumably, to each individual person handing in their own papers?
Well, that's the alternative, but it seems, you know.
I might just make a note, Helen. I'll ask Venetia as well, because if I remember rightly, because I was on the walking list, that the nomination papers she distributed to all her councillors, and then they filled them in and let her have them back, I think. Anyway, let's get some clarification on it.
Yeah, because obviously it's the first time I've done an election, so it's all a bit new to me.
Yeah.
There wasn't
Yeah.
a lot of information.
Those numbers and those reference numbers you mentioned, Helen, shall we pop them up on the website as well? Then they'll be along with all the other documentation.
I don't think we can, because I think the individual person has to have their elector number as well.
Oh, okay. Sorry, and I understand. Yeah.
Okay.
But what about the district number?
Unless we just put on the website, in order to find out your polling district code and elector number, please phone the elections office on. That's probably the best way to do it. So if I just emailed you the phone number, John, and what to put, if you could pop that on the website, would that be okay?
I can put it up with the other papers that are up there.
Yeah.
In actual fact, in the leaflets I've distributed in Chearsley in the last few days, it's also on there as well, isn't it?
Is it?
There's contact details. Should you wish to show interest in, becoming a councillor, and this is the place to go for nomination forms. And your address as well, your email address as well, Helen. Anyway, there's no harm in reinforcing it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Good. What's the end date again? Is it beginning of April to have these submitted?
It's Thursday, the 8th of April is the
8th.
deadline.
Right.
Yeah.
8th of April. Okay, there's no officer reports that I'm aware of. I know that I think Clive Harris is absolutely snowed under with issues in Hadnam, Ickford, Worminghall, Shabington, particularly through flooding and planning and all sorts of things going on. So there's nothing to report for us. Paul, tree and verge matters.
I think the only matter we've got really is just the ongoing one. Ian, we've got Tom Audley will be resuming duties fairly shortly. We did actually agree with it would be from any time from March onwards, but subject to requirements. So I'm guessing, if we do get a bit of nice weather, the verges will start growing and we'll probably bring them in shortly. So we have budgeted for this, if you remember. I will drop him the line just to see where he is in terms of his views on it, because he does Dinton as well, and he keeps an eye on when he thinks he needs to turn up rather than coming and doing something that doesn't require it. So we're on to that one. As far as I'm aware, Ian will back me out. I don't think we have any other ongoing matters just at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Well done. Ian?
No, nothing to add on that matter.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Could I just come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did, as I think a lot of people know, in our general audience, and certainly this council knows, we have got a project group now looking at Stockwell. And, I believe some very exciting plans to restore the area so that we can celebrate its heritage in the proper way. And I think what we agreed we would raise tonight is the fact that we are still working on plans. Derek, who is the project leader, Derek Allen, is looking at the physical aspects of the pond and doing a lot of work. And he's already speaking to contractors to get some quotations in to have a look at. And also Ian has done some very valuable work on the work that will be needed to be done on the surrounding areas. And I think we agreed that when we have finalised matters, Ian, and I guess we're not too far off, although we're not there, that we should make a formal announcement to the village on that, and just tell them what's happening, because otherwise I know that in the past when some works have been carried out, I think if I could use the cliche, forewarned is forearmed. So I think when we finalise, we've agreed this in the group, that the programme, when and exactly what we're doing, which Ian is primarily a lot of a jungle of brambles that need clearing for us to get, a decent situation with, a properly nicely maintained, not manicured, but a properly maintained bank that currently is just completely, completely brambled to death, if I can put it that way. So we're not quite there yet, but when we are, I think we all agree that it would be sensible to advise all our community of the work to be done. But I would just like to reassure everybody, I think this is a thoroughly worthwhile project, and I think when we get there, it's going to be really enable us to celebrate probably one of the great historic areas of the village that has just simply fallen by the wayside over very many years. So
do you think, John, is there any chance that possibly you'll be conducting baptisms there in the Holy Well?
Well, I might dunk you in there, Mr. Chairman, if you don't behave yourself.
I'll take that as a possible excitement.
Well, you probably need it.
Oh, my dear boy.
But it is, and also just to say that I think, as a number of you know, I'm with John Cragg. We're doing, we've started to do some, very interesting and promising historical work as well. And I think I'm hoping some very interesting things are going to come out of that as well, alongside the restoration work itself.
John Lewis, can I just ask you, did you manage, it probably wasn't on your radar, but bearing in mind we would like to get access from Rosedale Haybrooks Fields to do the work on the gabions, I don't know if you mentioned that to Rosemary at all.
No, I didn't, and that was a bit of a shame. I could have taken the opportunity to do that. I'll be happy to mention it to her, sort of as follow up to the conversation. I'll do that. I'll take that action to mention.
Yeah, I think from what I understand of talking to somebody with a very big digger and an arm on it, it could be done from Church Lane, extending the arm across to the bank, but it just makes it a lot more difficult. And also, of course, you're going to end up blocking Church Lane for a period of time. So if we can get her...
It'd be a lot easier from the Haybrooks field, both in terms of doing the actual work and disposing of the brambles afterwards.
Yeah.
Because loading up into a trailer would
maybe at the same time, Paul, we could offer to maybe trim a few lime trees.
Next.
We're trying to get some assistance here, Nick.
Strike while the iron is hot. Strike while the iron is hot, John Lewis.
Well, I mean, who knows? It's possible that Rose is listening, in which case, Rose, you heard the request and we borrow your field. But in the event you're not, I'll write or contact.
I hope she's listening. Hello, Rose. It's wonderful to see you. And thank you very much for everything. So, okay.
For John, for clearing what?
Brambles.
Yeah, this is for clearing the area, the bank area behind the Stockwell. It's going to need a digger to do it. And
I think that's why John was mentioning under verge matters. It is the verge of Church Lane.
Yeah.
The thing they're going to put in, I don't know, I can't remember how you spell it. The gabions, Gabions or something. Gabions. They're like these huge crates of boulders that are kept in wire mesh, Helen.
Oh, that was the word I missed, yeah.
Gabions. They use them in mountains and mountain passes and all sorts of things.
Motorways.
They restrict movement, but at the same time breathe the bank with a mixture of local flowers, which also help the whole thing. Paul will tell you, he's the bloody expert. Come on.
You're sounding pretty good yourself, I must say.
No, I know. I was waffling a little bit, John. But yeah, and it would be an amazing achievement if we could do that and reinforce that bank so it doesn't slide and doesn't entangle into the Stockwell. But also, when it's matured over a season or two, you get all these lovely flowers and stuff going on, which complement the actual Stockwell as well. Okay, so I think there's enough said on footpaths and gates then, John, or anything.
I think so. I've not got anything else to add to what I've said already.
Okay. Parishioners' question time. I've had an email.
I've got one. Oh, sorry, carry on, Nick. Sorry.
I've had an email from somebody called Fenella Tillier.
That's probably the one I've got as well, so carry on.
Just saying, I need to quite understand this, but it's a criminal, I'm reading this one, Criminal Offence Act 1996, put notice, Fenella, and refused to remove the feces. Is that what you've got?
No, I've got another one.
I think we're on that anyway, aren't we?
We're absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, Fenella.
Okay. I've got a note from Fenella, which is actually quite a useful one. It's just I should have updated quite early on the planning. Fenella was obviously looking for the planning application for Chearsley Hill House, and in fact that one has now moved on to requiring a full application as opposed to a couple of sort of delegated powers because. For various reasons, but anyway, it doesn't appear there. And Fenella says, "Thank you for that. I think I'm going to put the football on." Right. So she's obviously got fed up with the meeting, so it's nil-nil at half time.
Could be horse racing.
No, football. So thank
Yeah,
you.
it's
for the-
interesting
yeah.
actually, Paul. I mean, the council are probably interested in. I know there were two reasons it was called in, but the one that threw me
Was the aerodrome.
the aerodrome. Apparently, it's within a certain amount of kilometres of an aerodrome, and I'm thinking, Christ, are we talking Heathrow? That's too far away. But then apparently, I think was it the Hadnam Airfield?
It would be the Hadnam Airfield, and what you've got to remember, of course, now is that due to the policy of the AVDC initially sacking all their planners and then asked them to all apply for their jobs back, and then with 4 instead of 12, most of planning work is delegated to outside of the area. So if you've got someone from Kent, for example, who came and looked at an application for me, that's coming to look at it, he will look at an ordnance survey sheet, which will show that there's an airport at Hadnam. Local AVDC person would know that there wasn't, but it's, I think it's indicative of the times we're in, the fact that someone from outside of the area is looking at it, looked at the sheet, and there it is. So
I was suddenly concerned that all of a sudden, maybe John Lloyd has given up on, housing on his field up here, and they're going to put some sort of helipad in there or something. I don't know.
Well, absolutely, yeah. So I think they probably still got Stockwellers are working well for horses and travellers, so that that might help as well.
Okay. Any items for information? So if I go, Paul, why don't you start?
I have nothing.
Thank you, Paul. Loved your pond. Love that. Looks fun. If anybody's not seen Paul's pond, the small pond, not the large lake, the small pond, looks fantastic with your new conservatory.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Looks really nice. Okay, Keith.
Nothing from me.
Martin.
No, nothing from me.
I'm going across my screen, including officers. Robert. John Lewis.
Yes, just some quick one. I wrote to Elaine Hassel last week asking if there's any progress on our funding application for the junction. And her response was interesting. It's progressing. As you may recall, the last time I mentioned it, it was with TFB, who have to get an analysis done of the costs.
Yeah.
It seems that TFB are now getting through this, and she says that they will be returning all the applications, I have no idea how many there are, to the council sometime between mid-April and mid-May. There is then a Highways and Road Safety Working Group, it seems, presumably of Buckinghamshire Council, that is getting itself involved and has to look through all of that stuff. And then when they've had their two penneth, it goes to the community board for them to take a view on the funding. So it's moving. I have to say it's something of a snail's pace. I mean, if it's going to come back from TFB by mid-May, then I expect that will be mid-May. I don't know how long it's going to take this Highways and Road Safety Working Group to look at it, but I can't imagine us getting an answer much before the end of June by the time it's done the rounds. Considering we put this application in at the end of October, that's going to be, 9 months or something before we get an answer.
In the scheme of things, John, you must take comfort from that, because normally it can take 2 or 3 years.
Well, yes, and it probably can, but I think we might take an opportunity to raise this at some stage with the council. This is hardly a lightning process, and considering that we managed to get a whole study defined, let and done, and the results in within that sort of period of time, doing it ourselves. For the Buckinghamshire Council process, if I describe it that way, including TFB, to be taking as long as it is hardly a quick response. Now, I'm sure if there was a member from the council present, they would probably give us a number of good reasons why it has to be the way it is, and that may well be the case. But I would be interested, for one, to understand exactly why it has to take that long.
Interestingly enough, maybe the platform was coming up on Monday next week.
I had in mind to mention it then, yes.
I think you should. I think you and John could do an exceedingly good, hatchet's an unfortunate word, but I think you could do a really good convincing with Greg Smith about how he could benefit and help that happen.
Well, I had in mind to have a few dates available for him based on our previous experiences.
Yeah, okay. Good, well done, sir. Okay, thank you. Anthony?
No, nothing.
No? How's the allotments going?
Some bloke's dumped a load of cardboard up there, it's flying all over the place.
I knew you mentioned that. I knew you mentioned that. Gee. Thank you, Anthony. Hi. Helen?
No, nothing.
Mr. Howard, Monsieur Howard.
Yeah, just one thing, Mr. Chairman, the Chearsley Business Directory. I've got one or two loose ends I've been chasing up. I finally closed the book about a week ago, and I'm nearly ready to publish the first draft, which everybody will see. I'm also going to send a copy. We have 20 businesses have asked to be registered in our first bash at this, which I think is a good result. And hopefully I'll complete my loose end tying up in the next day or so, and then we'll have the first draft, which I'd like everybody to see first, and also I'd like the all those who've applied to have their listings in there to see it, to make sure they're happy with everything, to make sure that I've transmitted all the data and information correctly, and then I would hope probably by the end of this week we'll be ready to go live. A little bit of a delay, I'm sorry about that, but
Brilliant.
We're nearly there, and we've got the main thing is we've got, we're starting with 20 companies, and who knows, once it's out there, a few more may decide to come and join.
Absolutely.
The so
great. Thank you, John. That's a great initiative. Jules.
No, I don't have anything.
So that concludes, I think, everyone. Have I missed anybody? Martin, no, you're fine.
You asked me.
Okay. The only point I would just update you on, as you know, I'm busy also doing some work with county and lobbying and getting involved. It's been really interesting. I tell you what, it's been really, really interesting. I've now had a number of Zoom calls with people like Ickford Parish Council, Shabington Parish Council, as Helen will testify. And I hope they didn't mind my question about whether they're standing or not. I think it's quite interesting. I think I convinced a couple of people to stand, actually.
I think there's only going to be me left.
I ruined it. Thank you. And and I've got Worming Hall coming up. I'm already doing some work with Long Crendon, but another call with Long Crendon and Hadnam, etc. It's really interesting. It's actually really interesting. And there's some really great people doing some great stuff. And that's the message I was trying to give to people I've spoken to. And I know it might sound like blowing our own trumpet, but nothing like extolling the virtues of your own team. And, it's been well recognised, as I say, by lots of people around the area and wider afield, that this council is considered to be one of the most proactive, professional, go do it stuff around. And I think you've heard some of this, Helen, with some of the things that have been said. So that's a big feather. I don't like to see it like that. It's a big accolade and genuinely deserved. So thank you again, everybody. So I'm still buzzing around. I've now done 253. I've done all the houses in Chearsley in the last 2 or 3 days. It's been good fun. And my feet are killing me, but thank you. So that's it from me. The next meeting is Monday, the 19th of April at 7:30, which will again, I think, will probably be a Zoom call. That'll be the meeting before the election. So
Can I just come in there on dates then, Nick? I've left it to this point, but I have circulated this suggestion, and I didn't get anybody pushing back, so I'm taking it with more content. And that is that it relates to the annual village meeting as well, which we would normally have in April. But the advice we've had on balance is that it's better to leave it until after the election.
Yes.
Given that, and then given the time constraints for having that meeting, which is that it's got to be completed by the beginning of June, and also the need for the new council to elect its officers and effectively have its first AGM. It takes us to some dates which are, as you say, using the next meeting, which would have been the ABM meeting, the 19th of April, for our last meeting of this parish council. The election will be on the 6th of May. The first meeting of the new parish council will be on the 17th of May, at which it can elect its officials. I guess should that council, when it's elected, wish to change that, they can, but I suggest we have a date in the diary for them to work with, so they know where they're headed. And then the annual village meeting would be the following week on the 24th of May.
Do you think, throwing the question out to everybody, I've been thinking about this, John, I've not responded officially, but do you think, given the time frames and everything going on in the last 12 months, whether an AVM is wise? I know that there are a couple of, I know that Cuddington are not going to be doing one. Ashenden are not favouring it because of the time frames and everything. I just wonder whether, if we were to explain to people our reasoning, whether we're giving ourselves an unnecessary burden, particularly in light of the fact that it's a new council potentially, or there may be extra people or whatever coming in. It doesn't give you much time between the 17th and the 24th to get something meaningful together, does it?
Well, I think to that I'd say two things. I mean, obviously they are issues to consider. We have talked this through ourselves, haven't we, informally, and I think we came to the view that it was worth doing this year, especially given that there wasn't one last year either. And I see no reason why we can't, as an existing council, effectively get the thing set up. Not only can we set the date, we could invite speakers, because that's not really parish council business. It's all the normal institutions, organisations in the village who speak at these things. I can't imagine a new council would have any different ideas to that. We can prepare a report from this parish council on things that we've done in the past, so we can get 80% of it already ourselves for the new council to pick up, and they don't really have to do a great deal more than get themselves a bit organised and put it on, bearing in mind that it's only the chairman really that has a role on the night. As we know, this isn't a parish council event, it's a village meeting. Really, all the all the parish council has to do is supply a chairman to run the agenda.
Thank you. Well, assuming that I may be or may not be that person, I get that.
I don't know, perhaps others have got a different view.
Yeah, let me throw it open quickly then.
I just support John's point that this is not a parish council meeting. It's for the village, and I think it'd be good if it's 95% if it's the village. People listen to the parish council meeting, or can do if they want, every month, so they know what we're up to. It will be an opportunity for the new council, whoever they may be, to just outline perhaps plans for the year ahead. But given the 2-year break, it's a shame if the pub and Women's Institute and whatever can't have their say on what's going to go forward.
Okay. Anybody else a thought?
I mean,
I'm in agreement with that.
I agree.
Keith, yeah. Okay. And from a chairman's point of view, whoever delivers that, is it basically the usual where you just sort of give a very brief summary of the achievements that have been achieved over 12 months and a bit of a vision what's going forward, John?
I would say so. I mean, preparing a brief report that could be turned into a PowerPoint fairly easily is something that we can do. I don't mind doing that. It's just a case of rounding up what we've done. We could have another section on forward plans, which are the way we see it. The new council would have a quick opportunity to amend that if they felt differently.
Okay, so why don't I at least pre-prepare some bullet points on the 12 months and the vision, and then run it past everyone to say, what do you think? Tiny bit of meat on the bones, because it's only a few minutes, and then whoever's doing it can almost read it verbatim.
Yeah, I think that would do. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
Alan, that's another action point for me.
Yeah, I appreciate you probably just picking words out the air, but I think the point is it's work carried out by the council as opposed to achievements. Achievements sounds
sorry,
but I think it's, what have we done? So I mean, factually, how many planning applications have we viewed, for example, and things like that, which I think is quite, it's an interesting point.
I meant that, Paul.
Yeah, I know you did. I was just
broadly semantics.
Yeah, well, I used John as my script writer, so I thought I'd.
Well, I know. Oh God! Don't mention John Lewis, script writer. Mind you, I got my own back on him recently because I noticed some grammatical error in his note to me.
Are you sure it was grammatical and not syntactical?
I was duly chastised.
I tell you what, I went whoop whoop whoop.
We
John
done?
Lewis 10, Nick Brown 1. Oh well, brilliant, guys. Well done, guys and girls. Thank you very much. And for those who've been watching us this evening and putting up with us and our antics, I hope we've informed, brought a smile to your face, and stay safe and well. And we'll see you around the village.
Yep, excellent.
Bye for now. Thank you.
Cheers, thanks, Nick.